it is very important that you have the philosopher kings. It is very important that you have the ablest men as leaders in this Caribbean. And from the time I was a young person, I've been hearing that there is like a dearth of leadership, and that there have always been a cry for leadership from the time I know myself growing up as a young person. There have always been that outcry for leadership. And in the Caribbean region where I'm from, this cry has been loud, extremely loud for a long time. Today I'm going to come across some of the reasons why we in the Caribbean have this problem, this great problem with identifying and growing leadership, good leadership. And I'm going to give you a situation that was explained to me by my uncle. In order to explain, to give an idea as to a good example of what leadership is. My uncle told me, my uncle lived in a place called, but is a part of Houston, Texas. And he told me that the Americans brought in people from Vietnam. After the war, some people were brought in from Vietnam. They allowed them to settle in Houston, Texas. I forgot the name of the locality in Houston, Texas. And those people were in a certain area, land was given to them or allocated to them. So they identify a leader among themselves. And there were people involved in fishing. So they were fishing, and what they did was, with the proceeds from fishing, they would build one family house, allow one family to move in. The community would work again, build another family house, allow another family to move into that house. They did that until every family had a house. And they continued to develop the community. And afterwards, when every family had the house, they started selling house and land packages to Americans, to the typical or the work, provide themselves with a living, sustainable living, and they were able to build houses for each family, and then they were able to actually sell property to others. That is good leadership. And there are many examples of good leadership. There are examples that we see in the Caribbean. There are examples of good leadership that we see in different industries, in different avenues in St. Lucia, Jamaica, and different other places. You see pockets of good leadership in the Caribbean country. But for the most part, there is a bad leadership that permeates through the Caribbean that is affecting a lot of growth and development. And there are reasons for that. And I want to draw your attention to some philosophers. Some philosophers who provided criteria for the selection of good leadership and good leaders. I'm going to draw your attention to Thomas Carlyle. He was a philosopher of the 19th century. And his idea was this: you have to select the ablest men to be leaders, the more competent, the more experienced, the wiser one, the ones who are, he called them the ablest leaders, ones who have demonstrated qualities to show that they are able to lead. That was in the 19th century. Then we had a scholar, an American, black American, named W.E. Dubois. W.E. Dubois' concept or idea for black Americans was the concept of the talented tenth. So you get talented people, across the Black American population, you take 10% of them, 10% of the best, 10% of the talented ones, and then you train them to become leaders, and they would lead and provide leadership for the other Black Americans and to get them out of a bad socioeconomic situation. Also, I can give you the leadership style that Plato, the ancient philosopher, spoke about. He spoke about the concept of the philosopher king. The philosopher king is almost like the ultimate leader. And because of his knowledge of reasoning, his ability to reason, his good ethics and morals and ability to reason, he has become a philosopher. And because of that capacity, he's able to lead properly. He's able to lead effectively. And that's the concept of the philosopher king. So you can see from the ancient times going down, the people have proposed different ideas in order to get the best leaders for a country. Even in the Bible. And so what did they do? They wanted the main disciples to go about and taking care of the widows and things like that. And the experienced disciples said that, no, we do not have time for these things. We have to dedicate ourselves to prayer. But look for people that are wise and people that are filled with the Holy Spirit. There was a situation again where Moses was staying from morning to night to judge the people of Israel, the children of Israel. And his father-in-law, Jethro, came to see him one day. And Jethro told him that you're going to kill yourself with that kind of leadership style. You are the only one judging all these people. You're going to get yourself tired. You're going to weary yourself. What you need to do is to get different people that are competent and knowledgeable, people that have good moral values, and then put those people to judge over the people, and the more difficult cases you deal with them. So throughout history, we have seen that there are criteria, there are standards of leadership in order to get the most competent and the best people to handle the problems of leadership. Because leadership, you see what happened in a lot of the Caribbean especially, people see leadership and they only see the glamour and the glitter of leadership. They see it as a prestigious thing, but there is more to leadership than prestige. You see, in a country where your resources are limited, it is of paramount importance that you get the best of the best to lead at all levels, especially at governmental levels where people will be interacting with leadership from America, leadership from the European Union and other places. In America, they have their way of getting in the ablest men or the talented 10th. What they do is, just when you follow the news and the political rallies, you notice that the people who go up to vie up to be congressmen and senators, these are people, and even governors, these are people who probably were very successful prosecutors, people who are successful businessmen, people who were probably involved in wars and they did something heroic and they were recognized as men who were successful and who brought victory to the country in different aspects of war. But there must be some claim to fame, something that they did that caused the people to want them to represent the country. But when you juxtapose that with what's going on in the Caribbean, I'm talking about the Caribbean from the top going down to the south, there seem to be a situation where we are not trying to get the talented tenth. We are not trying to get the ablest men. Okay, as Carlyle proposed. We are not trying to get the philosopher king as Plato espoused. We are basically using some strange criteria. And this is why sometimes we have problems. We look for people to lead based on people we drink with, who get drunk. We look for people who are popular in the rum shops. We look for people who probably are popular, but they are not able men. They are not the ablest men. They are not of the talented tenth, but they're just popular. We look for people that are from our clique. We look for people who we believe that if these people are in a position, we're going to get opportunities, we're going to get contracts, we're going to get this, we're going to get that. These are the things that we look out for. And the thing is, we have to be more careful even than the Americans and the British, because these people have resources and they can afford to lose. They can afford to lose some amount of money. They can afford to lose some amount of resources. But we in the Caribbean are third world countries. Our resources are very limited. One of the singers said, Chuck Dust said, all we have is just seawater and sand. But I would add, all we have is seawater, we have sand, and we have human resources that we need to make use of. So because of the limitations, because of the fact that we do not have gold, we do not have silver, we do not have uranium, we do not have a lot of these things that the other countries would have, it is very important that we have people who are capable, knowledgeable, and know how to use the resources that we have to bring about a better outcome. But what we have is situations where a lot of times in community groups and different places, we do not have the ablest people in leadership positions. We have people that are basically square pegs in round holes. And sometimes you see in these Caribbean countries, sometimes they negotiate with the United Nations people, European Union, and the Americans concerning different policies. And at the end of the day, we always end up at a disadvantage. We always end up at a disadvantage with all of the treaties and agreements that we sign. Because you have people who are selected based on probably loyalty to political parties, people that were selected based on whether or not people believe that they can get opportunities from them, people that were selected based on just having a good smile and being good speakers and no substance. So when you send those people against the people that are senators in America, when you send those people and negotiate against people that are gifted, talented, able bodies, when you send those people against the philosopher kings of America and philosopher kings of Europe, you put yourself at a very big disadvantage. And in the Caribbean, there are some good leaders. Definitely there are some good leaders. But they are very few. And when you look at this situation, even how the Caribbean leaders are allowing Donald Trump to make a mockery out of the Caribbean people, you can see clearly that there are very few philosopher kings in the Caribbean. There are very few like talented tenth in the Caribbean among the leadership. So like this CARICOM thing that is going on there, the CARICOM does not comprise of the talented tenth of the Caribbean. CARICOM does not comprise of the philosopher kings and the talented tenth of the Caribbean. And so when you have these situations where you have the people that are not supposed to be in CARICOM, yet they are in CARICOM, we find ourselves, even when you come against people who are not intelligent, like Donald Trump, you find yourself losing in trade. You find yourself losing in negotiation in the Caribbean. And when you look at the leaders that we have now in the Caribbean, as it relates to the interaction and negotiation with Rubio and Trump, it appears that there is a lot of fear among those people. Even the Americans will dictate or suggest that they get rid of the Cuba medical program, and they will agree to do that. They have started in Jamaica. And they have not seen the need to form new ties with places like even Russia, stronger ties with China and those places. But these are just more obvious examples. But even at the lower level, at the community level, in the different community groups that we have, the people who emerge at the top of these organizations that we have in the Caribbean, even in these banking companies that we have, the true leaders do not emerge. That is the main problem in the Caribbean. The main problem in the Caribbean in terms of leadership now is that the ablest men from the concept of Carlyle, the talented tenth, based on the concept of W.E. Dubois, the philosopher king, based on the concept of Plato, we do not have this kind of leaders. We do not have the best of the best to lead from the bottom to the top. And that is why we have all these problems for 40 years. You've been having the same problem, 15 years, 20 years, 60 years, the same problems. And this is not the only reason for it, but I would say 60% of the problems that we have is because we do not have the talented 10th leading us. We do not have the philosopher kings leading us. We do not have those people leading us in the Caribbean. And so it is very important. The action that we should be taking now is to ensure that we follow the qualities, the criteria that we're supposed to follow in order to get the best of the best in leadership, because of the fact that our resources are scarce, because of the limited resources, and because we are in a situation where sometimes you're being bullied by other more powerful countries. It is very, very important that you have the talented 10th. It is very important that you have the philosopher kings. It is very important that you have the ablest men as leaders in this Caribbean. Keep the fire burning.